Hello, I'm Rochelle Friedman-Walk, a volunteer for SCORE, and you're watching Tampa Bay Community Network.
Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And we have with us today Rochelle Friedman-Walk, who is an attorney but is a volunteer with the SCORE organization, Service Corps of Retired Executives. Thank you for coming on the show with us.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
I have been enamored by SCORE for many, many years. Early in my business career, I did use them. I went in and talked with them, and they were a big help to me. And I've sent a number of people to them. But this is really the first time that I've had anybody on this show that represents SCORE. Right. So I've got lots of questions for you. First, what is SCORE?
Well, SCORE is a really unique organization. It started by an act of Congress in 1964.
Oh, really?
So in 1964, our Congress realized that there are retired executives, or I'm going to say retired business owners, because sometimes people don't think of themselves as executives.
Yeah, sure.
And they are people who have a wealth of knowledge, can volunteer, can counsel businesses, and are willing to counsel businesses. At the same time, we have a large number of businesses, even back in the 60s, and certainly true today, startup businesses, existing businesses that could benefit from a partnership or from counseling from experienced business people. There are chapters all over the United States. Tampa is one of the older chapters, and we have a core of retired executives and former business owners and business managers who are available to counsel startup businesses as well as existing businesses.
Now, this is nonprofit, so there's no charge to the client that comes in and talks to them?
There is no charge to have a mentor. Okay. Sometimes we offer courses, and in Tampa, we've chosen to charge a kind of minimal fee. I think it's like $35 or $50. The prices change periodically. For some of our courses, where the retired executives actually teach a topic. There's also an incredible amount of free information on the national website. You can go to score.org, and there are online courses that you can take. Almost everything we do is free of charge, and the ability to have a true practitioner providing that information without a cost, it's like having your own personal board of directors.
It sounds great to me. There's so many times I've been in business for myself almost my entire life. And there's been a lot of times when I would have liked to have been able to reach out or had somebody. And luckily, I did have people step into my life along the way, Zig Ziglar and a variety of others who stepped into my life and helped me when I needed it. But it'd be nice to have one on the phone that I could get to like this.
On the phone, in person, and sometimes when the special business need is something that we don't have here in Tampa Bay, there might be a counselor somewhere across the United States who would be willing to step up and help.
Really? Telephone consultation?
Absolutely. We have a counselor here in Tampa. This is a great story. He has counseled the same business person for something like 13 or 14 years. The business person.
Slow learner?
Yeah, you know what though? Business person lives in Asia, in China. And our counselor has been doing business in Asia and China for a very long time. And this person needed the kind of counsel that our volunteer had, the kind of experience that our volunteer had.
Wow.
And he has been doing this through Skype and online for years.
Technology is fabulous if you know how to use it.
It really is. It's just amazing.
How does one, and I hope that all of you listening to this broadcast will give this some thought, because as she pointed out immediately, you don't have to be an expert. You don't even have to be an executive. You may have some business skills that's totally different that'll be of use. Now, how does one become one of your volunteers?
Oh, that's a great question, Bill. So if you want to volunteer for SCORE, you really just need to go to our website at www.tampascore.org. And there's a button, it says volunteer.
Ooh, easy.
Pretty easy. Or you can call the phone number, and even if no one answers the phone, there is a recording, and you can leave a message that says, I'd like to volunteer, and here's my name and phone number, and somebody will call you back. What's really important about volunteering for SCORE, and I will tell you, I first volunteered for SCORE in Cleveland, Ohio in 1986. I started giving seminars.
Just a teenager at the time.
I was, just a mere teenager. But I was working for a major law firm, and I was asked by the managing partner of the firm if I would give a seminar on going into business.
Okay.
And I gave my first presentation, I would say probably about 1986, maybe 1987, something like that. It's a wonderful organization. So at that point, I didn't have a lot of knowledge other than as a business attorney. I had the ability to explain how to incorporate, how to form your business, what the basic needs of a new startup business would be from a legal point of view. So when we look for volunteers, we are looking for volunteers who can bring a resource or multiple resources to bear. In my case, I only had one thing at that time that I could offer, but a business person might be able to offer advice on accounting, maybe on insurance, maybe writing a business plan, maybe someone has experience in running a restaurant or running a dance studio. Perhaps they have expertise in how you might start up a contracting business. We have all different kinds of volunteers at SCORE. And what's important is that we try to match people with the skill set of the volunteer. So if you're coming to SCORE with a certain need, you're starting, let's say, a brand new construction business, we'll try to find you a SCORE counselor who has been in the construction business, and maybe somebody who has experience insuring a construction business. So if you're out there and you have some skills, and maybe your time is more available than it used to be, this is a great opportunity to work with some younger and maybe less experienced business people to share your skill.
That's the easiest way to grow old is to do nothing.
Absolutely.
And I think that so many people I see, especially in our area down there in Sun City Center, they're bright, they're smart, and they've got so much to contribute. If we can just tap that market and get them in here to do something.
You're absolutely right. And what's interesting is you may have been in business for yourself, or you may have worked for somebody else, but you have skills and the knowledge to help perhaps a brand new business get started. I mean, a new business might be something as simple as a dog walking business. I counseled a woman recently on how to start a dog walking business. And what we realized very quickly is the logistics of the business wasn't very hard. But understanding the kind of insurance and bond you might need for a dog walking business was complicated. And we needed to find an insurance expert. That might be somebody who's worked in insurance for a lot of years, maybe never owned the agency, but certainly knows what kind of insurance you need.
It's fascinating, really, all the things. So what we'd like you to do is, if you have any skills at all, let them decide whether or not it'd be valuable to SCORE. Go ahead and hit that volunteer button, fill out whatever you have to do. And I guess one last question I'd ask you on the volunteers. In our litigious society, if I give somebody advice, does SCORE stand behind me if, for instance, the advice isn't taken correctly or used in the wrong way? Or?
Right. That's another great question. And one of the beautiful things about SCORE is that as long as you are serving in your role as a SCORE counselor, there is indemnification and, if you will, some protection for the advice you give. So if you give advice in good faith and you are doing it as a SCORE counselor, you really can't be sued for that advice. It's understood that you're just a volunteer. The other thing they will ask you to do is sign a conflict of interest waiver, which means that you have to agree that when you counsel a business, that you will not have a conflict of interest with that business, so that our clients, as we refer to them, the business startups, can have some confidence that you're really looking out for them when you're acting as a SCORE counselor.
Would that mean that I couldn't counsel 2 restaurants?
I don't think that it goes to you can't counsel 2 restaurants,
Okay.
but I think it would mean that if you knew you were counseling a restaurant owner who might be considering expanding to a certain location, that you couldn't take that
into
information
consideration.
and perhaps start your own restaurant in that location.
Okay. You know, it's interesting, and I think that as I have guests on, I like to, especially those who volunteer, I like to know a little bit about them, so that our audience can get a feeling for what they're saying and what their background is to allow them to say it. And you have your own law firm, is that not correct?
That's correct.
It's Walk Law?
It's Walk Law Firm, and we're a little bit of a startup law firm ourselves. I spent most of my career as a general counsel for very large public companies.
Okay.
And after I retired from that position, I got back involved with SCORE. And
Another early retirement.
it was. It was an early. I was 50. And I decided that I was hanging up my corporate dancing shoes, if you will.
Okay.
And was trying to decide what I wanted to do next. And I got back involved with SCORE as a volunteer. And as I was volunteering and doing some other things, I had some friends talking to me about, well, what are you going to do? You can't really be totally retired at 50. So I decided to create a law firm that was designed to work with small to mid-sized businesses and their owners,
Okay.
and to provide alternative fee structures so that startup businesses could actually afford to have legal services.
In your role with SCORE, they can actually come and counsel with you for a period of time for free?
So yes, exactly. So what I do with referrals from SCORE is I usually will meet with the SCORE counselor and the client, and we'll give them a half hour, 45 minutes of our time. It'll either be me or one of my attorneys for free. And it's usually enough time to get them going, to at least get basic conversation, basic concerns started, give them an idea. Like this past week, I had somebody in, they were starting a not-for-profit. And they needed some fundamental understanding of how a not-for-profit works. For instance, who owns not-for-profit? Well, a not-for-profit is a public charity. So if you're thinking of starting one, the members of that not-for-profit own it, but when the not-for-profit closes, if there's money left, it goes to another not-for-profit. It doesn't go to the owners.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
We talked about that, spent about 45 minutes, maybe even an hour with this group because of their particular concerns, and we did that without charge.
Okay.
If there
But
are,
they came to you through SCORE.
with their SCORE counselor, as a
their
matter
SCORE
of fact.
counselor.
So one of the things that's great about that is that the SCORE counselor then also gets that education.
Yes.
And has that to take forward to other clients, as well as when questions come up, the SCORE counselor and the client have a great way to continue their conversation.
I'm wondering, you mentioned now we have a basis for where your intelligence comes from, your knowledge comes from. Let's talk about, you said you did seminars for them.
Yes.
What did you talk about? What are the primary points? We can't go through the whole seminar.
Of course.
But what are the primary points that you covered in this seminar?
So SCORE had, and I don't know if we have any active seminars at this time. I think we're on a hiatus period with our live seminars. But SCORE covered primarily 3 different topics, big, broad topics, through seminars that lasted 4 hours on Saturday mornings. And they were here in Hillsborough County. You could take them at the SCORE office. One was called Going into Business. One was about business planning. And the last one was about sales and marketing. So, which would
You can't
probably
sell
been,
it, it's no good.
Exactly, probably would have been near and dear to your heart there. So I taught the Going into Business seminar, and it was, if you will, the umbrella seminar.
Okay.
Very high level, And the things we talk about in those kinds of seminars is everything from choice of entity, should you be an LLC, a corporation, go into business as a sole proprietor, and why or why
Let's
not?
stop right there for a minute.
Okay.
The three things: sole proprietor, LLC, corporation.
Yeah.
Broad brush. How do I decide which of those three I'm going to do?
Well, I would recommend that there are very few businesses that should be a sole proprietor today, because you are your business at that moment. And if there are business liabilities, your personal assets will be intermingled with your business assets, and therefore somebody making a claim related to your business would sue you personally. Whereas an LLC or a corporation is a separate person from you as an individual. For that reason, if you had business liabilities, they would be suing your LLC or corporation. Your business assets would not be intermingled with your personal assets, and somebody suing you would not have a way to get to your personal assets. And vice versa. If somebody was suing you as an individual, they would not necessarily have the right to get to your business assets. So when you make the decision between an LLC or corporation, there are a lot of considerations. Tax considerations, how many members or owners you're going to have, what your business structure will be, what type of business you're going to be in. And that's something you really do need to get counsel on. And if you don't have an accountant lined up, somebody who can help you with tax, somebody who perhaps could help you with considering the type of business risk you're in, I would strongly recommend that you find a team of people. So part of that seminar talks about how do you get a good team behind you.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of ISIS, but IRS scares me to death. Having been a businessman for all these years, they're the one group that bothers me.
Yeah, and I don't think the IRS is scary if you actually understand how to navigate and what you're supposed to do. It's not hard to comply, but it's not always obvious what you need to do.
But there's only one group in the world that can walk in and padlock everything you have.
It's true, there's no question.
And the next morning you get up, you've got nothing. You can't get at it either without a fight.
Well, and here in
So
Florida...
they do scare me.
Well, another thing I will tell you is here in Florida, where we don't pay income tax to the state, we do pay user fees and sales tax. And many businesses make mistakes with sales tax and other kinds of fees that are due to the state of Florida.
Right.
And our Department of Revenue is very tenacious. For that reason, I recommend that you get some expertise around your obligations to comply with the Florida taxation rules. So that's another topic that we would have covered in our going into business. Agreements.
What else would we do? Agreements.
Agreements.
There you go.
Two people go into business together, you need an agreement. A shareholders agreement, an operating agreement. My greatest fear when you take on a partner isn't how we're doing on the day we start. It's usually how we're going to do on the day we're done.
Divorce court.
So we call it business divorce in my firm, and it is the scariest activity of any business.
I have a friend right now who has a family member that he's in business with,
Right.
and they have no agreement,
Right.
and it just scares me to death.
Well, and here are the things that happen. People get divorced, and now you have a partnership with the ex-wife or the ex-husband. Somebody passes away, and now your partnership is with the decedent.
Are you going to insist on being scary?
I call it the parade of horribles, actually. And in my book, they all start with D's: divorce, death, disillusion, debt. Somebody files for bankruptcy. What do you do? How can you be partners with somebody who can't afford to continue in business? There's really a lot of things to consider when you become someone's partner, including when that one person puts up the money and the other puts up the sweat equity, how that will be compensated in the end. Perhaps the person who put up the money is expecting 3 or 4 years down the road to get his money back.
Right.
Well,
or a bigger return.
Or a bigger return. Or the right to control if they don't think that the work is being done the way they would have hoped the work would be done or the company's services would be done.
I had a
These
situation like that where they agreed to split the profits, but the one was the person that put up the money, and they were not in the active management.
Right.
And they agreed to split the profits, but the person who was in the active management used his expenses to fly airplanes to this place and that. And the other one looked at it and said, whoa, wait.
Right. You are 100% right.
And they had no agreement.
They have no agreement, and they don't have a common understanding about how that is supposed to happen. I've seen situations go both ways, where somebody was supposed to be active in the business and never became active. Said, well, I put up the money, I don't actually have to do my part.
Right.
Or put through all of their personal vacations through the business. I've got a situation right now with clients where they have put all their personal expenses through their business. So if there's a third-party creditor, that third-party creditor probably has a pretty good claim on business assets if one of these people failed to pay, because all of their personal liability is intertwined with their business liabilities.
Wow, how does Irs look at that?
The IRS will be first in line in intermingling and trying to get to all of their assets.
Got to be scary. That's scary.
It's scary. So you need agreements, and you need to separate your business assets from your personal assets. If one partner is putting their personal Saturday night dinners through on the corporate credit card, then all the other partners will do it. Eventually, you'll get into a fight or a dispute over, who ate more sushi.
So money management is a very important thing to carry.
Absolutely. And the other things we'd cover in the course, basic accounting, what's the balance sheet look like, what is net income, basic sales and marketing, understanding grassroots marketing, understanding what works depending on your type of business. You might have a very effective business advertised on the internet, while another business might be most effectively advertised on park benches or through one of those tabloid magazines that are like the local, Sun City newspaper or the local South Tampa little tabloid. Depending on where your business is, one of those may be your best bet. And the SCORE counselors really help give you the counsel to understand how to look at those matters.
One of the things I've seen sink a number of small businesses is I have to have all of this. I've got to have a big copier. I've got to have this. I've got to have 10 lines, all of these kind of things, when they really didn't need any of them.
That's a great observation. A few things that happen. First, usually when you're in a small business, you are going to finance that business. So you need to have money to live on, to eat dinner every night, to pay your mortgage, separate from all of the money you're going to use in your business.
And don't spend the taxes you've taken that you have to pay the state.
Exactly. Have a separate budget for your business. Expect that you're going to spend that money yourself.
Which means a separate bank account, correct?
Absolutely. Your business is a separate person. It has its own bank account. You need to be able to determine through your budget what you really have to spend your money on. And maybe you can lease a copier instead of buy a copier. It might be worth considering alternatives, Kinko's, at least until you're up and running. Even though it's more per copy, it may, in the long run, be a better way of making your copies. You need to consider the costs of professional advice, the cost of insurance, the cost of marketing, not just the cost of goods that you're going to sell. The other thing people forget is that there are multiple ways to finance your business. And one of the best ways to finance your business is ask your suppliers for credit. Instead of necessarily writing a check, you might be able, if you're going to have a retail store, you might be able to go to your suppliers and say to them, can you front my first order, give me 60 days to pay it back so that you actually can get some cash flow coming in.
That's a great idea.
While you're getting yourself going.
Right.
That's where the SCORE counselors are wonderful, because unlike any other group I know, these folks have practical advice.
And that's important.
They know the tricks.
I found, I won't mention what university, but a class I took in marketing at a particular university. I took it at night.
Yeah.
And the instructor had graduated from that same university. and was now teaching there and regurgitating back, which 10 levels of teachers had regurgitated to him. And most of what he told me wasn't current.
Well, it may be technically correct, but it's not market. And it's so important. This is the reason why I'm going to go back to why we need volunteers and people who have recently been in business. Because people who have been in business, who are active in business, and now are volunteering, have that unique practical know-how. And I don't know another organization that provides free volunteers with real experience. Not just, I read about it in a book, but I actually did this. I actually saw how you might be able to finance your business without ever going to a bank. And I worked that angle myself. It's a very
I
unique group.
college doing that.
Yeah.
I won't explain how. But it worked very well for me, and I would take a loan on something that was interest-free and pay it back in the time it took me to get my grades.
Right. Well, one of our SCORE counselors gave a great example in class about how you might get some tremendous advertising dollars without spending a penny. He talked about a woman who used to go to the Gasparilla Parade, and she had a huge banner with her business name on it. And every time she saw a camera anywhere near her, she and her friends lifted the banner. And they were annually and repeatedly on TV. She did it for every major event. She had more advertising hits for free.
Well spent.
You know, creativity goes a long way.
And you have to use a little creativity along the way, and maybe getting with people who are creative,
Absolutely.
which takes in ad agencies and things of that nature too.
Right, and another great example. You know, one of the great struggles in business today is understanding the internet and understanding social media. If there are volunteers out there who have real skills in website development, internet, social media, our SCORE clients need you.
Yeah, I'm 7 people short as of this morning of maxing out on Facebook.
That's amazing.
4,993 people.
I had no idea there was a limit.
Oh yeah, 5,000 is the best they'll do.
Wow.
Rochelle Friedman-Walk, attorney and also SCORE counselor, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share with us what SCORE is all about. And also to give us some really good, solid business information. Some things that I hadn't thought about, and I've been in business for a lot of years, or if I had thought about it, I forgot.
Bill, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself you are, because you are, you know. And I'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. And Rochelle, thank you for being here. And I'm going to go look at that SCORE website.
Great. Thank you, Bill.